Round 10 is here for the NRL, and we got some big ins and some big fantasy and supercoach implications. So let's get into it straight away with the Eels and the Fins. So it's more of a team, the Eels, I think, where you're probably looking at looping. And if you haven't bought Riley Smith, he's definitely on the potential buyers list. And do you take a punt on someone like Moses? Even Addo Carr is absolutely flying right now. So that's the interesting side. Yongi's there, probably more in the hold basket right now, but yeah, this Eels side, it's okay, and this could be an interestingly close game. We'll see how that one plays out. For the Fins on the other side, you've got some really good scorers in ICAT, in Herbie, in that back seven, and then when you're looking at the forwards, you had a couple of good games from Finafiliaki and Lemuelu, but can you pick those guys? We do lose JMK out of this one again, so he's just been in and out, and Kurt Donahue does return into that 9 jersey and should score pretty well in that spot. And we probably see Ray Stone maybe Sean O'Sullivan take a few minutes from Kurt in that 9 jersey, and then is there for any injuries of note there. Maxi Plath, if you're holding on to him, they absolutely cooked you guys with him being named that week, and after saying he was going to be out for sort of 6 to 8 and then naming him that week, late scratching, and kind of probably made people hold him. And I'd imagine it looks like he's still a little while away now with that injury, given it was and probably is like a 6 to 8 weeker. So if you are holding out hope for him, not this week, maybe round 12. If you haven't bought, you can have a look at him, but performance implications could be there as well following on from that one. So yeah, very, very interesting little setup, that one for the Dolphins, and probably not long enough to buy Kurt Donahue. Gilbert back to 13 as well, with Lem and Finn starting, which is, with Plath out, that makes sense. Knights Titans. Now, for the Knights side of things, it's probably better news now that they've had a good win. They're looking a little bit better in attack, and Ponga looked improved as well. So I think there's a lot of guys in this back seven, probably everyone bar Schiller is an option this week, and we'll touch on it pretty in-depth in the best buys video, because the Titans were pretty poor for the most part last week, and really allowed Carraz and Crichton to go nuts on that right-hand side along with Preston. And I definitely think that the Knights can do the same. If we're looking at their forwards as well, you could look at Jacob Saifidi, you could look at Thompson, Lucas, KPP as all decent options there as well. So yeah, really fun team given they play all the way through to round 18. For the Titans side of things, they get Campbell back, which is massive. And for those that sold last week, like you held on for a few weeks and then, you've sold last week, that's the frustrating one. Most people did, sell the first or the second week, they looped him or something like that and then sold, and that was the correct play. I think, do you get him this week? I don't know. Against Knights, I think they can definitely put on a bit of a score, and if he plays well, if the team sort of comes together, and it's very, very similar outside of Campbell coming in for Weaver, that should improve them. They should be a bit better than last week, definitely. But is Campbell a play this week, or is he still a play come round 13, given his price? And there's a lot of wing fullbacks at the moment, halves even, that have gone pretty well the last few weeks, and they're at they're getting to a closer price to Campbell, but they're also in form, doing the business, whereas Campbell is currently coming back from an injury to an ankle that could hurt him performance-wise, a syndesmosis, and they didn't get surgery on it, so I'm not sure how that makes a difference with his performance coming back. But it's an interesting one. I think you can buy him and it worked out really well. You can also wait till next week or round 13, and he's going to be a very important player again. In the forwards, Fermore's over 700k now, so can you jump on him in fantasy? I'm not sure. Did really well in Supercoach also. And you see Randall go back to the bench. We've got a Rama Hau. I'm not sure how to say that. Rama Hau. We'll go with that on the interchange bench there with Pahulu as well. So yeah, a couple of younger players along with Isaac and Chris Randall. So a bit of coverage on there, and they're not playing Francis this week. So Weaver is out. Let's go to the Bunnies and the Broncos. For the Bunnies side, it's fairly irrelevant apart from Hubner being back to 13. If you did hold on, I think you can again with Kepi, Moale, and Liam LeBlanc on the bench with Jai Gray as well. So Aaron moves back to the front row, and Hubner gets that opportunity to play more minutes again. So if you held on, you can continue to. Mamo is out. We haven't heard exactly how long Pete's going to be out. He's just got the elbow injury. We'll find out hopefully over the next couple of days how long he's definitely out. But with a dislocated elbow that wasn't back in post-game, I think you definitely need to sell. Unless you are looping, like I'm considering looping Riley Smith in that first game, and then Pete could be the guy to help me out with that position. Latrell's back. We see Humphreys back as well. Godfrey's great to see him back. And in that 7 jersey will be an interesting game with both Latrell and Humphreys returning. We see Ewan Aitken move back to the edge. Hubner back in 13. I think it's a much more solid side. Veely will do a job at 9, and can they put up a fight against the Broncos? And the problem last week was defensively more than anything was the main issue, and they at least they definitely have the attack now. Humphreys will be good defensively on his edge, and they get a few guys back in the spots that they prefer in Aitken and these types of guys. So interesting. Graham's back at centre, Fletcher Myers on the wing. So can they keep it up? So can they get back to some decent form with those guys back? I don't think you can buy Humphreys, a bit too expensive. Latrell is cheaper. Who knows? They could get whacked by the Broncos as a bounce back, and guys like Latrell do struggle, and the kick meters from Humphreys versus Latrell will be interesting as well. For the Bronx, Cobbo doing some good stuff. I think Cheapie you can hold. Cobbo you probably don't buy now, but he's doing a decent job there. For the forwards, it's just Haas and Carrigan. Willison keeps his spot, but he only played 40 minutes, and we see Ricky back in the start for Piakura, who had probably his best game of the season there. So, not too much else to touch on those 2 games. We go to the Raiders and the Doggies there on Saturday afternoon. With the Raiders, they name the same side, and Matt Nicholson keeper. Joe Tarpany, I think, is a really good purchase this week. Horsburgh has been named. Actually, I didn't realise that when we went through. So he has been named. Does that just mean he's passed his cap 1 that got named, but he's been named to go, and apparently he's going to be fine. So that's good news for us owners, and we'll stick him in for another week and see how it all plays out. But big news. I said Nicholson the keeper, Tarpany one to target, and Fogarty could go again. Like he had the 48, it wasn't anything special, but he's definitely a good guy to have for round 12 as well. And on the Doggy side, you get Burton returning. He's fairly cheap, and I think after his lower score, you do wait, I think, at least this week against the Raiders, definitely. And then you can side him round 11 or 12 if you want him to be your cheaper round 12 half. Carraz, still a good buy, he's obviously very expensive now, over your price over 50 at 680 odd. And that cracking game last week, he'll be around that 50, anywhere between sort of, I think, 50 and 60 longer term. The way he's playing right now, you see a few guys have just taken a bit of a leap. We're looking at like Bradman Best, and he's always been like a 40-odd guy. He hasn't really had that. He's had sections of years where he's been really, really good, but then he goes back to 20s and 30s, but just doesn't have as many of those boom games. But, Carraz is similar in a way of having some boom games and has that better base than someone like Bradman Best, but he's more expensive. So interesting one to think about. Preston's been named for now, but if you follow along at the Judiciary tonight, if you go on NRL.com, it'll have the Judiciary, really hard to say apparently, and you just go through their transcript, so you can follow that along, or just wait and one of us, one of the content creators will mention it, or the NRL will mention it there as well. Saturday side, Bailey Hayward goes back to the bench, which moves Taff back out of the side into the reserves, and the Doggies were on our plane on the weekend on the way back, which was fun. Dragons Wars for the Goons. We don't see any change in their back 7. Lycan's going to be a really fun cheapie cash down. Hamish Stewart gets the 13 role with Gula out. Unsure on how long Gula will be out for, but it didn't look great. But he also started at 13 with Gula there anyway, so I think it just helps him a little bit more. You've got Pacifica Tonga on that bench there, so nothing too much changes for this side with Blake Laurie still not making it, along with Vital and Mariner. Little doing really well, but can't pick him off the bench. So it's Stewart, Egan, and the Couch Show, along with King Togia. So we could have a bunch of Dragons guys in our sides. And this Warriors side has changed a fair bit, and the big thing there is Cossie's out and Rocco Berry out, with Capewell moving to the centres, which I just think opens up more minutes, or the same minutes for Clark. With Jacob Laban, Valmarga, Bunty Afoa, the three main middles on the bench, there's minutes there. And does Halasima or Niokore play lower minutes? Maybe with Halasima playing 80 last week, he could continue that. We don't know. But Niokore could move into that middle rotation with Laban coming into that edge spot, which if Laban was to play 50 odd minutes and Niokore was to as well, then maybe it does hurt Clark a little bit, but I can't see this setup hurting him much other than, any lower than sort of 60 minutes. And it should be sweet for Barnett as well. Having Healy just seems to be a really good player, and I think it does hurt Wade Egan a bit. So I wouldn't be buying Egan. You clearly hold, you see how it goes, and work it out from there. But sorry, I mentioned Cable moving, but DWZ is finally back on that right wing. And Metcalf and Harris Tavita doing great work, and look, they could go big again. They definitely could. On to Cows and Panthers there. For the Cows side, we just see Cotter out of the team. Unfortunately, there for him. And McIntyre, comes in and plays. Cotter gets 2 weeks for the high tackle, which is rough for him. Thankfully, allows him an opportunity still to make the Origin team, which I think he definitely will. And McIntyre goes to 13. And the real guy to look at from this team is just Drinkwater. And then what you decide to do with Jackson Purdue. Do you think he's near a keeper? Do you think he's worthy of trading out of your side with the awesome cash that he has made? Drinkies could still be a buy. We'll discuss him a lot deeper in the buys video, because he's killing it. Panthers side of things, we've got Edwards, a bit of a rough one. So I understand going a week early, to be honest, on Edwards to sell. Like he's gone 20 odd or whatever it was. Wasn't great last week. The week before was 70 odd. So yeah, very on and off for Edwards, which is not what we've expected from him. The big news out of this one is Jenko, the 2-try, 3-line break hero from last week, has been dropped for Brian To'o, and they're keeping Gunner in the centres, knowing and seeing how good of he was with the tip-ons, and defensively he's really good, and coach has trusted him in important moments. The only thing that may change, to be honest, and we're unsure if this will happen, but Garner could go back to the bench, because they've got Jenkins at 17 and sitting him with Schneider at 14. That only allows space for 2 middles. And Jenko could play the centre, and we know that he did pretty well there. And we could see Garner move back to the bench, or he could move into the starting side for Isaiah Papali'i, which we have seen in the past. So yeah, that's the probably the interesting thoughts there with the Panthers, and we do hope for another big game from Cleary before we potentially sell him, or Isaiah Yeo if you own him. So To'o back is massive. Keen to see how that works this week. Should be a pretty fun clash though. This is a really big game for both teams, especially the Panthers, who go into a bye and then lose their Origin stars for a lot of weeks across that period. Very, very fun. Now Storm and Tigers there, a couple of games to go. With the Storm side of things, Hughes should be on the radar for people. Munster potentially is a sell. Papenau's in a clear hold, it looks like, and then Eli Katoa. We'll deep dive into him a little bit too, because he's coming off a big game and he did lose a bit of cash. So Ellie, fun one, definitely. Tigers there, you're looking at nothing changing in their back 7 with Stafford Toa missing another week. So you could loop him, you could sell probably. Some people might have been relying on him. And yeah, that hurts a little bit if you were. But I think he was getting to sell territory anyway, and I think I will this week. Should have last week for Karaz, but I'll fix that mistake and go for it this week. Do you want to play a lot of these outside backs, apart from like Galvin? Maybe not. So if you have Dewey, I think he could be sold as well. Do you captain Terrell May in this one? It'd be interesting. The middles like edge players for the Raiders put on a bit of a scoring masterclass as well, and they're not playing the minutes that Terrell does. So I think he's still a really good captaincy, just like Payne Haas and what Cleary is as well. And Seyfarth's doing a job, so hold on steady with him. I think that's the only big things from that game. Yes. And then Eagles and the Sharkies finish this one off. It's going to be a great clash. I can't wait for that one. For the Manly boys, Garrick's still a good buy. I think he is going to be up against Kaliro, which will be fun. But the Sharks are still letting tries in. Doesn't mean they're not. So I think Garrick, longer term, good buy. Not good buy of a team. Good buy, a good one to get in. Olakwatu coming off a really good game. Not sure if you purchased him, but the big news is out of this one is Jazz Tavanga keeping the 13 role with Jakey Trebojevic going to 8. So a few people, Mitch mentioned that he hoped and thought there was a good chance of Tavanga staying at 13 and staying out of the 9 role with Simpkin being there. You got Lockie Croker, still not there unfortunately, but around the traps. That it's worked out that way. So congrats to anyone who did grab the Jazzman for his he's just going to score better at 13. It's just is what it is with him. And moving on to the Sharkies there. Iro is a really fun pick. Hines you can buy as well. They're the two in the back 7. Adam Fanua-Blake coming off lesser minutes. I think with him, you definitely wait the week because it's been very up and down. I almost think you wait the 2 weeks for Adam Fanua-Blake and make your moves in round 12 with these types of guys. So could be the play around Adam. And then with McInnes, it could be a little bit more pressing given he's coming off a better score, but usually means he's not going to go for a massive score again. Billy Burns keeps his spot with Wilton still out, and Britton Nikora, people are talking about and discussing at that cheaper price, $570 odd or whatever it is. Will he come good? The base stats are down, the tackles are down, so very important we know in fantasy. And I just don't think he's scoring well enough. He's scoring tries, but again on the weekend, if he doesn't score a try, it's like near 30, which is pretty gross. So that are not the things you want to be seeing, I don't think, from your near 600k player. So we'll find out all the news on Preston tonight. We'll get into the big buys, the big sells, and the rest tomorrow. I did mention I'd talk about some buy planning last week. We moved it to this week, which is the people I was wanting to get on, unable to do it. So we move on, and we get them on this week. We'll talk through some people's buy planning. I'll talk about it in general with amount of trades and all that good stuff. And we'll get that out to you guys tomorrow. I think you'll hear from Scoop tomorrow as well. Should all be good fun. Hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and we'll see you in the next video as always.